Hi everyone, welcome back to What the FinTech, your FinTech Feel Good show. What the FinTech is a news and information platforms covering the latest FinTech development in Hong Kong, Singapore, China, and Asia. Join us every week for an engaging conversation with various Asian tech figures to discuss about entrepreneurships, emerging technology, customer engagement, and partnership. Before starting this interview, feel free to share your question in the comment sections, like and share. And today we have Haywood and Kevin from Binery. Hi guys, how are you?
Hey, Medhy. Good to
Hey.
be here. Thanks for inviting us.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure.
Thanks.
Definitely good to see you. I bumped to Calvin many times on many events in Hong Kong. Haywood, I bumped to you two different entrepreneurs events as well. So it's great to have both of you here today and discuss about your entrepreneurship journey, but also the company you have created, both of you.
Awesome.
Before we start this interview, maybe we can just have a quick introduction of both of you, one by one. Know who you are, what you have done before, if you grew up in Hong Kong, and what was your career before you become an entrepreneur.
Sure. I'll start first. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Hong Kong, and born and bred here. Well, I spent a little time in Holland, but most of my time was here. Had the international school background, and went to university here because I wanted to expand my career in this part of the region. I think I graduated around like 11 to 12 years ago. And back then, startup wasn't too hot yet. You had the kind of Facebooks, etc., but it was still like, hey, go into corporate, go into consulting, banking. And I ended up joining a management training program in a company called British Telecom, BT. And that's where I kind of met Calvin because he was my customer. We'll get into that later, but yeah, I was there for 8 years doing enterprise sales, and that is huge contrast to the kind of customers I'm dealing with today, because back then was purely Fortune 50 companies. And now, we're talking to small businesses every single day. So, yeah, I mean, that's my background. Yeah.
What about you?
Um, I, you know, I've been working in the industry for nearly 17 years. While I served at numbers of companies like airlines, uh, the companies like in Hong Kong and Cafe in Hong Kong Express. I'm doing like architectures for the companies. And typical, I work for like in numbers of industry, bankings, aviations, uh, gaming in UK. I studied in Hong Kong, and when I was small, I was like sent to Toronto for like for kind of like
High
not
school.
elementary, like grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, those things, and then I head back to Hong Kong for my studies. Then I end up here and doing like studying binary with Haywood.
Okay, cool. One of the questions I like to ask everyone is like, being an entrepreneur is often synonym of a turning point in your life. What pushed you to become an entrepreneur? What was your experience? Is it any frustration, a lack of services, or did you see just an opportunity and you trust the mission to deliver a service who can, you know, meet the gap that is missing on the chain of the decisioners and the partner there?
Yeah, I think our approach to entrepreneurship, a bit of different paths. I think, as Calvin can talk about it later, he had his own other startup before, but mine was pretty much 8 years of corporate. I think the kind of politics, management structure, dealing with enterprise customers, that was getting very complex with RFPs and compliance, and I've learned a lot there. And but I've kind of found out more about myself as I've grown up in terms of, hey, I want some quick wins as opposed to like a sales cycle of like 2 to 3 years. And I think, at the start, we tried to look at some side hustles, looked into the whole drop shipping back in 2016. I did some sort of other side hustles that didn't work out.
Mhm.
And I think also I would be lying to you if we were like, hey, you know what? The bookkeeping is a big problem. We really want to solve it. I mean, I didn't even I have no interest in accounting or bookkeeping at the start, and look what we're doing now. So I think it's not a very predictable journey, and I think that is the nature of entrepreneurship.
Okay, okay. And you, Kelvin?
Um, I was working one of the startup before in Singapore, called New Money.
Okay.
Not sure any of you guys heard of it. We should be one of the first using Bitcoin as a remittance in 2013 to 15 in the regions. But at that time, I decided to quit and going back to corporate because something doesn't really worked out there at that time.
Okay.
Well, after a corporate life, I decided, okay, all right, there's a pain point in the market on bookkeeping, especially when I was serving one of the CPA networks, and with 77 countries present, there's plenty of problems in the CPA firms. Especially they're quite manuals, especially old school CPA, right? Then was thinking, is there any way we can work out to do some automations, let's say using AI to do some predictions for the accounts, for for receivables, helping SME to understand their business more in more deep dive in a way using technologies. That's why we started this company Binery together with Haywood in a way. The first thing we need to cater is like automated some of the input process. The second thing is doing prediction with their financial data industry behaviors, trying to do more prediction, helping SME to understand their finance in a way. So I think it's tough to start a business, but I think there would be a long way to go for us. But I would see there's a tons of opportunity in the market, especially on accounting's automation in this industry.
Interesting. I also have the same year experience than you. I was in banks. I went to startups for a couple of years, and I went back to corporate and working for a bank right now. So,
Right.
what I'm missing is maybe the last steps you did restart a company again and really become an entrepreneur. But I can see myself in your story as well. So, guys, you speak about creating the company Binery, but how it came to you? You were friends before. You mentioned you were customers and a
Yeah.
provider of solutions. How both of you came to that idea, and why did you start this company?
So back in BT, I had to look for new accounts, and at the time, Calvin was at a company called Hong Kong Express, and that's where I approached Calvin. Hey, let's talk. We got a solution, and I think I managed to sell you something. I forgot, but in the end of the day, we didn't talk for like 4 to 5 years. But I think we kind of knew each other's strengths and weaknesses,
Okay.
and then somehow I think Calvin got in touch because of his role at that CPA network, and I would say the kind of difference between us where we complement each other is he's definitely more of the visionary and I'm more of the hustler.
Okay.
And I think you need that. You
You
need
need
both. You
need
need
that
both.
both.
You need both. If we're both visionaries, I don't think anything will get done.
It work out. It will never work out in a way.
So yeah, no, that's how he tried digital transformation within the CPA firm, and as industries goes, they're one of the most archaic industries. And I think we had to use a startup methodology to try and make some change.
Okay, interesting. So you start with really the bookkeeping first, or you start with some solutions. How did you approach your problem there and
Yeah.
create your first product?
So we saw what's in the market first,
Okay.
and we saw in the US there's two companies doing this pretty well, and one is called Pilot.com, shout out, and one's called Bench.co, both backed by Sequoia, Stripe, Series D companies. I'm like, hey, what's happening in Asia? And that's how we took the opportunity. And we're both not accountants, so why would a random company trust us? But I think it's finding out like the pain points, and we kind of saw two trends in the market that helped us build this in the first place. First trend: there's too much accounting software in the world,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of business owners that don't have the time or necessarily the financial or accounting literacy to learn how to do the books. And generally, the software appetite of self service in Asia is very different in the US. Here, people love services. They don't want to learn softwares themselves. And I just think that's the nature of the culture here. And that's the first trend: too much accounting software. Okay, what do? If I don't want to manage my own books using accounting software, I go find services. But the second trend is we see that CPA firms don't want to do bookkeeping anymore because it's low margin, it's manual labor. They want to make more money per hour, their lifestyle business, by audit, advisory. So with these two trends together, we're like, hey, we can do something.
Do you want to supplement on this?
um, I take example when I was in a CPA firm, you see those like kind of people, laborers putting in the invoice every day. It's like a robot there, looking at line by lines, putting in there. Why don't we do something by automation by using OCR, using OCR, extracting data and putting it in the right accounts? Well, of course, we need to train our system first in a way. Of course, we started in a way that we started from extractions and we put in a set of accounts on training on using machine learnings and uh, robotics process automation (RPA), so that it can automatically categorize the account by automations. But it technically it can replace the human job when they extract the numbers of things correctly. We still need human beings to look into what they extracted to train the system, so that we are not taking out anybody's job in here at the moment. But it will help the firms to become more efficient. Typical in Hong Kong in a CPA or globally, take an example in Singapore, Malaysia, they would take around for if they put in the invoices for one invoices, they would take around 2 minutes or maybe even 1 minute for less. Well, for us, it's like 10 seconds. Scrape all everything, put in the system, confirmed by human being, done, next. So we believe this product could really help on the CPA side, as well as helping our customers. Because they just simply snap the pictures on the mobile apps and it's uploaded and processed by our engines and confirmed by our support team in Malaysia.
Yeah. Yeah, and at the start, we had how we reached out is I think we sent emails out to people we think faces the problem of bookkeeping as an issue, and it's kind of finding the customer persona.
Mhm.
And I think that initial hypotheses we hit it right, and usually it is young companies, newer startups, and typically high volume transaction startups. So let's just take an example. If I'm a consulting company and I rake in 1 million, 2 million, where I send only 2 invoices a year, you don't need a bookkeeper. But if you're on Shopify or Stripe selling a SaaS business, you have a lot of transactions. And we think that, integrating with the likes of a cloud accounting software, yes, it sounds nice from a marketing perspective, but there's still a lot of buttons to click to fully close your books. So yeah, we send emails out. Hey, I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. I think this is a problem you're facing. Can we chat or not? And that's, I think, how we got the first 10 customers.
Oh yeah, so the cold email works
Cold
for you.
email,
Yeah.
cold email works.
Because I see like a lot of advertising for cold email solutions right now on
I
LinkedIn
think
everywhere.
I think you will put it in the junk.
So when you start your first solutions, you get your 10 first customers. How did you interact with them? Did you do some iteration? Did you ask for feedbacks? Did they suggest some acts of improvement or like new features that they would like to have?
Yeah, so the first few customers we had, we did it completely manually because we wanted to learn the current process
The
and then
hard way.
yeah, the hard way,
The hard way.
and then reverse engineer by doing some product management, making some mock-ups on Figma, showing the customer, hey, like,
Are you happy with it?
they're happy with this. But in the end of the day, what we found out is for a lot of the customers in Hong Kong specifically, they don't really care about the software. You talk about a restaurant, they want their books on time. They care about the P&L and balance sheet. And so we placed less emphasis on a UI UX at the start. But we use softwares like usertesting.com to get feedback on the product, and that's how we started.
Very cool. And from this experience, how did you improve the solutions after this? Because you say like at the beginning, no UI UX, and after this, I'm sure now you have it.
Yeah.
So did you prioritize based on the feedback you got, or maybe by doing some run with them? I don't know. Like
We
what was
we
your
we
experience?
kind of sit with the customers. Okay, this is that fine? Is a UI UX look fine? Is the function look fine? Anything you suggest that we're trying to put in the roadmaps, because we won't be able to satisfy everyone in a very short period of time. We need to justify the function, function need to be implemented into systems, because they will be time costs. We call them T&M, time and materials, so that we really work out the time and materials and what customer really needs. Example, there's a tons of customers before we don't have that expensive features, right? Then there's a tons of customers. Let's say a majority of our customers, like 50% or 60%, asking, oh, "Do we have that expensive features?" So we think, okay, majority 60% asking for it. Then okay, all right, we're going to put that program, put that in place, getting all the expensive features out with approval matrix there to be implemented into the system in 1 or 2 months' time. Because it will take we still have a development cycle need to follow, right? But the key point is to building functions perfectly for customers, let them to do beta tests, allow them to give feedbacks, providing any ideas, providing feedback. No, providing they provide feedbacks. We're trying to implement into the systems at the back as fast as we can. If we really need to do it, we can sprint it up in 2 weeks, but we still need to go through that process of testings.
Yeah, and I want to supplement on that is find the super users, and the super users will definitely complain the most. But I think that's a good thing in return. And in return, we give them, look, you don't have to pay for the first 6 months. We really just cherish the feedback here, and in the end of the day, for because the thing for us is we're not pure SaaS. In the end of the day, we are a productized service, being our first product. And that's I think that's even tougher because you're kind of managing the SaaS at the same time you have operations, and then from managing the business perspective, your unit economics is completely different than just looking at your daily active user and monthly active users. So I think from that perspective, it kind of teaches us how much time to put in UI UX, how much time to improve the service quality, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Efficiency at the back of the support team in a way.
So from your first 10 customers to now, how did you grow with the company as a humans, as an entrepreneur, but also as a team and as a solutions?
Yeah, so we started two of us, and then now I think we have around 30 full-time headcounts. We started during COVID, so it was a blessing and also not a blessing. Oh, I forgot the word. But in terms of now, the team is distributed in 4 countries: Hong Kong, Malaysia, India, and Egypt.
Okay. Oh, Egypt as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
Egypt. We got an
That's why I
interesting
make it to Egypt.
interesting story about that.
Funny.
But essentially, we're 30 people, and half the team are engineers, and the other half are accountants. And currently, we service for customers in around 10 countries around the world.
Very cool, very cool. And in terms of demographic of the customers, do you have like mostly food and beverage? Do you have mostly e-commerce platforms? Do you have
Sure.
like some shops?
So to split the segmentation, 20% of our customers are quite high tech. Usually high volume of transactions, SaaS businesses, or usage based pricing businesses, and I would say the latter are all brick and mortar businesses wanting to go online. So F&B for sure. F&B not necessarily when it comes to the sales side because the POS does it quite nice, but it's on the accounts payable side. And interestingly, for F&B, it really depends on your cuisine that you serve. Because if you're a hot pot place, you can imagine how much types, how the diversity of ingredients you buy versus if you're a bar and
Mhm.
you keep buying the same thing. So different industries or different cuisines have different pain points. So F&B and trading is definitely one of our big customer sets for the non-tech sector.
Okay, and this is true for all your markets, or it's only true for example, Hong Kong and Singapore?
It is true for all markets, I would say, because why we know that is we strictly focus on bookkeeping. So accounting firms like working with us because we don't really look into tax or audits because that's not our expertise, and we got to focus as a startup. So it's quite homogeneous, and we do see this pain point everywhere.
Uh, During your growth, did you partner with other platforms? Like, for example, there is some maybe a cloud solution that you're using a lot and leveraging on it?
Yeah.
Um, we pretty much heavy host on Google Cloud and AWS because we do multi-cloud strategy in a way. Because we serving 10 countries, right? Example, there's some kind of like local requirements, regulatory requirements to be storing financial data locally within the countries. Indonesia is one of them. So we need to spring up the some kind of like coverage in Indonesia with that region with those data we covered it. In Europe as well. According to GDPR, we need to put in the data within Europe. So that's why we are quite on heavily on cloud, and then we host it like nearly everywhere. But we follow the strictest compliance requirements as we can, because you don't want to you don't want to have any data leakage or anything or being hacked. So we do our very best in a way. We do penetration every 3 months, and then we do try to implement 27001 ISO 27001 within another 6 months. So there's a tons of things to be done to protect the platforms quite well. The data encryption as well. Oh, sorry, missed that.
And also in terms of actual partners, because I think at the start we were going quite direct to the customer, but it's not very scalable. So we had to leverage on some channel partners that really worked well with us. And I think one of them would be KPay, for example, in Hong Kong. So they're a very up and coming a POS startup, and they have over 10,000 F&B retail outlets. So they're one of our biggest channel partners.
Yes, they're very new and very big here now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I don't know if you interviewed Genie,
Genie.co.
yeah, Victor and
Victor
Ray,
and
Yeah,
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 yes.
Victor.
So they're also one of our channel partners too.
Okay, okay. Oh, yeah, yes, it's true because they do enrich information data
Correct.
to
Yep.
companies. Yes, very cool, very cool. How do you consider yourself compared to the competitors you have? Maybe like some people can compare you with other services, delivering certainly like the same services than you, or maybe differently. So how do you see the difference with your competitors? How you make yourself a bit like, unique on the value proposition?
Sure. I think a lot of people in Hong Kong, I can say, are comparing us to Sleek or Awesome. And I would say Sleek and Awesome, they are doing more full services. So in terms of incorporation, company secretary, bookkeeping, your visas, etc. But we're really focused on the bookkeeping aspect. And what that means is I would say we get more complex customers when it comes to bookkeeping, but that's also because we want to attract more complex customers as opposed to doing like more mass market, I would say that they are doing. And I think the approach towards Hong Kong would be a bit different. So maybe we would partner with more local associations here, maybe because both company culture is a bit different.
Mhm.
So the go to market strategy is a bit different. And I think there's enough market wallet share to share between.
Definitely the cake is big here. When I was looking at how people are doing their accounting here, a lot of people are still doing it via Excel, and I was really surprised. And when I look at the data from the different software, I saw that most of the software are still desktop software, so not connecting to the cloud.
Yep.
And like here, you have a lot of reseller. You don't have like people. They're definitely delivering the cloud solution here, so there is no incentive for them to
Move it over.
push for the cloud. Yeah.
But when they feel the pain, they will know. Of course, when
Yeah.
the computer hard drive break down, then they definitely know what happened. All data will fly off.
And how did you approach your growth? Because you start in Hong Kong, so your growth now is, as you mentioned, Singapore, Malaysia, and also Egypt, right? So how did you start your growth overseas? What was the strategy there when you choose to go to Singapore, for example, or Malaysia?
Um, uh, One of the strategies is we had investors from the US, we had investors from Singapore and Malaysia, as well as Hong Kong.
Okay.
And we actually, because startups is definitely one of the personas that we work with. So we approached our investors as channel partners, as well as investors, be like, hey, you know what? You should, as part of your SOP, check out your portfolio company's monthly financials. And we got a pretty good solution. So why don't we work together? And that's kind of how we started working with other countries. And then the rest is SEO and inbound, I guess.
Okay, okay. And I know that both of you are going quite often to Malaysia. So I mean, the teams there should be big, or maybe your plans there should be also interesting, no?
Mm, yeah. Yeah, you want to talk about it?
You go ahead.
I think Malaysia for us is very critical because that's our gateway into Southeast Asia. And we currently have a team of around 12 people there.
Okay.
And we incorporated there. And it's quite, first hire for us was actually our head of ops, Kenny, in Malaysia during COVID. It took me 2 years to finally meet him in person. And
That one's
I think that was quite I'm very proud of the team because they're servicing Hong Kong customers which they have completely no knowledge of, and servicing quite traditional businesses here. Are they comfortable, working with a Malaysian? And these things, like I think like COVID just brought down a lot of barriers that traditionally we had, and I think that's really cool.
What keeps you busy right now? Because we speak about a lot of bookkeeping. Maybe you are developing new features for the bookkeeping solutions. Maybe you are developing new solutions complementing the bookkeeping services that you have. Are you planning to deliver a new product that you can maybe disclose or share a bit with me?
we're trying to deliver something like on helping SME to know that their their business performance. We're using some kind of models by HAMA or called alternative credit scorings. It's like literally you can put that into SME financial to understand to let SME to know how the banks or how the regulatory looking at their finance in a way. So we're trying to put that product in place. But it's really tough, right? While that paper is like only pointing out 70 matrix there, while we're looking at more broadly, we're trying to look into 200 data points into that. That's quite complicated because you're going to be putting in industry behaviors, you're going to be putting in uh, uh, the average spending. There's a numbers of like ETL process to extract, transform, uh, learn processing to be done over there. So we heavily working on that product, but I think it's going to be out quite soon. If I'm not mistaken, in end of Q1 or starting Q2, we are having a beta launch with our customers. And of course, as I mentioned, right, compliance, we're working on numbers of RAMs in the platforms, making it more bulletproof. So we are on tech side, we are uh, quite busy in a way.
Okay, okay. What you just mentioned about the alternative data credit scoring is interesting because most of the bank today they are like really interesting about this kind of models. Some of them a bit more risk taken and they want to do the leap of faith, and others are more like, oh, let's see, and we don't want to be the first one. So do you have a lot of interaction also with traditional financial services or banks here?
We do. We're speaking to two banks at the moment. I under NDA,
Yeah, yeah,
I
no
can't
worries.
really mention the names. Sorry for that. But we're working quite closely to develop something for them. But no, well, not developing, trying to, kind of in other terms, trying to work with them to see what they needed. Because developing a model, so algorithm on, like on monitoring the whole set of accounts is quite different than a traditional lending's approval process. Well, that lending credit scoring has to be coming from the banks. It's not coming by us. Or if we have more data to be interacted on the behaviors, we can help the banks to understand the behavior of our customers. Are they a legit customers in a way?
The name of this podcast is What the FinTech, and I love to speak about collaboration between like company like yours, disrupting an entire industry, collaborating also with traditional financial institutions. Do you think like sometimes it's really challenging for you now to work with them, or did you see like them really being curious and like they want to achieve with you something?
I think this comes back to me and Calvin's experience in the enterprise world over the past 10 years. And I think we have an understanding of how to navigate within a commercial institution, especially in a Fortune 100. Each person there has their own incentives, own KPI.
Yes.
How do we satisfy that? And then also like respect your procurement process, your compliance, quick wins, stakeholder management. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we're embracing it because we know it's necessary and the best interest for our company for sure. Yeah.
One of the questions I like to ask all the entrepreneurs coming here is also like, how did you grow your company? Did you create some values that you try to share with every new employees coming to your company? How do you make sure that the values, especially when it's the team is overseas,
Yeah.
like share with them, and also like the team is going to the direction you envision, right?
Yeah, I think every time we hire, it's kind of based on three pillars. We're looking for someone super curious and someone super energetic, and also like to believe what we're doing is meaningful to society. And I think based on those three, we have a pretty awesome team. And one thing that I think that we foster quite well in the company is results orientated. I don't care if you work on a beach, you work anywhere, as long as you're not necessarily putting in the hours, but you know the outcome to make yourself successful, which in turn makes the company successful. And I think me and Kelvin align on, look, if you take care of your team, the team will take care of your customers, and we really believe in that value.
Very cool, very cool, very cool. And there is any value that you like to share a lot with anyone? Like they can, for example, big corporate, every time they say, "Oh, all value are there," you go on the website, you see the values,
Sure.
and people know what are the values. Do you have the same approach for your company, or it's totally like different?
I think I'll say more from a sales culture in terms of the company. I think every salesperson, you're facilitating a buying decision, right? You're not really pushing something down someone's throat. And I think for us, our sales culture, it's like, look, you either get them to say yes fast or even get them to say no faster. Like, let's not waste anybody's time. And I think our culture is quite direct. It's not suited for everybody, but also, as startups, we have limited capital and
Yeah.
limited time, so we have to be quite black and white in terms of this, and that's the culture we foster, but complemented with the working flexibility and the results orientation. I think it's a pretty good balance.
And we have also the culture in digital transformation: fail fast, but fail but fail fast, right?
But for tech, we quite follow the process on, because we pretty much set up the process. So everyone will have their ticket, everyone will have their sprint to follow. Or maybe we got to be, if you have questions, if you have trouble, say it out quickly, mention it quite quickly. Then we will know what happened. We're going to help you on it. So I always tell the same: we are not alone. You are not alone. Well, we walk together. There's a journey for us to walk together in a way, all the way.
Perfect. Do you have any plans for the company except the product we discussed at the beginning? But do you have any plan to extend your teams as well overseas in the coming 6 months, 1 year?
Yeah, so we're looking to raise our next round of fundraising, and the use of funds there is to actually grow our team in terms of sales and tech development. So, because we're working with more commercial banks and also some trade finance companies, that has more deep tech expertise where we need to enlarge our technology headcount. At the same time, right now, honestly, our sales team and myself, we're going all over the place: channel sales, enterprise sales, and I think we need to structure that a little bit, bring in some SDRs, AEs, so the proper structure.
Very interesting. And for you?
Pretty much on technology and engineering, I'm going to be putting more resources on security parts because we pretty much like I'm one of the guys looking after security there, right? There's two guys looking after that. I think we will need someone to be overseeing those pictures there, security, development, operations. So we've got to split up the teams in different parts. Then we can kind of like do things more quicker, and everyone will have their job and role to be defined quite clearly there and deliver things nicely.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. Unfortunately, the time is running out, and we have already finished most of this interview. So I'm very happy to see you today here. Maybe in the future we can do another episode when you have successfully raised your Series A and also deliver your credit scoring product or application with the banks. But it was a pleasure for me to have both of you here today.
Thank you,
Thank
man.
you very
Thank
much.
you very
Take care.
much. See you soon.
See you.